I just watched a very interesting video, which I'll link down below for you to watch if you wish to. It's of a man who is in the Child Protection Agency because he's divorced from his wife and they're trying to determine something about the child. I guess who gets how much custody over her. I'm not sure of the context, but I do know a few things from the video. For one thing, the father gets the child about 12 hours a week, and then the mother gets the child the other 6.5 days. So that implies the mother is the primary guardian, but the father is allowed to exist in the girl's life. Another thing that I can tell is the father seems to be concerned about the daughter's health for a few reasons, which I'll explain more as I go along. Or you can watch the video first, it is down below, and then you can form your own opinions. But anyways, here's just a few gut reactions I have about it. These Child Protection Agency employees don't seem to be very concerned about protecting the child. It seems like they're just overly aggressive with this individual that they're talking to. And I'm not sure why they would be, unless if it's a personal bias against men, for example. The assumption that women would be better caretakers than the man would. And I find that to be a very disturbing thing. Here's a few reasons why I feel like this video is wrong. For one thing, when the man brings up the fact that he is weighing his daughter to see how healthy or unhealthy that she is, the individuals tell him that he is being mean to his daughter. They're giving her self-image issues. They're telling her, hey, you're fat, you're stupid, you need to lose weight. And like, isn't that bad for the child's self-image? Now, once again, I don't know whether the child is really obese or if it is a healthy weight. I can't tell because I haven't seen the child. I don't know too much about body mass index, but assuming that the child is overweight and you are weighing this child every week, you're keeping a relatively consistent log of how their weight is going, and you notice that it's trending upwards. If you sit them down and talk to them saying, hey, sometimes when you partake in certain behaviors, they are unhealthy, they can cause you to gain weight, and that is bad for you for this, this, and this reason. That's not fat shaming. It's not fat shaming, because it's just a fact that it's healthier to be skinnier. And that doesn't mean that all fat people are unhealthy and all skinny people are super healthy. But the fact is, if you take Joe Blow off the street, who's obese, he's probably going to be less healthy than the average person, and if he just loses 100 pounds over the span of a year through diet and exercise, he'll probably be healthier than he was before. So having concern about your daughter's weight, especially when it seems like she's constantly gaining weight, is a reasonable concern. But they're saying, no, you're hurting her self-body image. That reminds me of a t-shirt I recently saw of Peter Griffin from Family Guy being really obese. He's standing there like this, he's like, I beat anorexia! Yay! Or that episode of South Park when Cartman just accepts the fact that he's a fat blob of nothingness and he decides to get a motorized scooter to ride around everywhere, and he goes on a rampage telling people about how they're terrible for being anorexic. They really aren't. They're just normal weight. They're not super skinny. But he's saying, you're anorexic, and that sucks. You're not accepting of us as fat people. It's the idea that being anorexic or being extraordinarily skinny is a bad thing, yet being overweight or obese is acceptable. If you criticize someone for that, then it's okay. The fact is there are health concerns to have about the individual, and if someone has these problems and you don't bring it up, I think that is dangerous for their well-being. Don't you? And another thing, this father said that he takes his daughter out to McDonald's once in a while. He takes her out to McDonald's sometimes. She gets the Chicken McNuggets. She'll get the zero-calorie Coke. And this was a huge topic of contention from the employees. I don't understand why. They're saying, oh, well, you're constantly weighing her, telling her to be healthy, and yet when you have her, you're not doing healthy things with her. Shouldn't you be more healthy? Shouldn't you be cooking actual food for her? And there's a number of gut reactions with this. First off, if you have the child for 12 hours in a week and the other person has the child for 6.5 days, shouldn't the concern about how healthy or unhealthy you're being go with the parent who has the child for more than 6 days out of the 7? I think that makes sense. The father says in the video that since he only has her for less than a day, he just tries to take advantage of that day and have a fun time with her. And since she likes McDonald's, he views it as a treat that he can give to her once in a while, as well as the zero-calorie Coke. These women just kept pounding that in. You gave her Coke. You gave her Coke. You gave her a soda, a pop, whatever. They kept driving that home. And it really isn't that bad for you. Obviously, if you don't drink water at all and you only drink soda, that's going to be unhealthy for you. because, as the father said, the daughter knows now that drinking a Coke is almost like eating a meal. It's just very calorie dense. But it doesn't seem like she's just sitting around drinking Cokes all day. It's a treat. Now, if this was a more equal split in terms of custody, like the man had the child 3 days, the woman had the child 3 days, and they alternated the 7th day, then it would make more sense to say that if the father took the daughter out for McDonald's every meal, then that would be hypocritical. But the fact is, if you don't have control over the child the majority of the time, you can't control their diet. Which, by the way, this makes me wonder if they're saying, you're giving the child McDonald's and Coke, that's bad. Why are they saying that? I think they're saying it simply because they want this man to look bad and they want a reason to hate him. Because if they're really concerned about the child's safety, health, and well-being, they would talk to both parents about this. They would say, what are you feeding this child? Why are you doing this and that? And it's very possible that the mother is giving the child a perfectly healthy, perfectly balanced diet, and then the father is just giving the child McDonald's. That's entirely possible, but I have a sneaking suspicion that they never did this sort of interrogation, considering how hostile they're being towards the man. It seems unlikely from my perspective that they're saying, oh, well, maybe the child is really unhealthy. Especially considering that these people keep saying the child is at a healthy weight, and gaining weight about 3/4 of a pound per week is not very healthy, even if you're a growing child who's 7 years old, as the person says. It doesn't seem like they have great concern for the child's health, and that's a concern to me. Another thing I want to bring up is the fact that apparently the mother is giving the child a mystery drug, some sort of pill, and we don't know what the pill is. But the father is concerned about this pill because he was never told that she was being taken it. He only knows that she was dancing to a song one day, her heart started beating really crazy, she felt sick, like she was going to pass out or something like that. She had to sit down, and when he talked to her, she revealed that she'd started taking a new medicine that's supposed to make her controlled. And this is something we do with kids nowadays in culture. We give them medicine to control them, because who wants to be an actual parent, right? Who wants to instill good values in your child and you can just drug them up? I made an interesting video about this called, Is Giving Adderall to Kids with ADHD a Good Idea? I'll link that down below as well, and I'll put up an annotation. It basically explores this idea that we view all children as having some sort of mental disability that we have to drug them for. And apparently these mental disabilities are just exploding because everyone has to take a pill now. I think it's because parents are either too busy to actually take care of their children, or they flat out don't want to. So any sort of difference is not regarded as a personality development trait. It's viewed as something that you have to get pills for. I mean, growing up, I never fit in. I was never a normal kid. I was really weird. I had weird things I did. I had trouble focusing, but that was just because I was a different person. I've never been given medicine for anything, and as an adult now, I'm fine. And that doesn't mean that every single person on earth is going to be like that, you know? It doesn't mean that every single child doesn't need pills. Some of them do, but the vast majority who are given it don't. And considering this man wasn't told what the pill was, and he wasn't told that she was taking it, and now that she's taking it, she magically has heart problems, that seems like a concern. Now, the logical approach to this would be for the man to contact the woman saying, are you giving her pills? And if she says, I'm not going to tell you anything, then you can investigate what's going on with this medicine, because apparently the father was telling the child that what she's taking could potentially be dangerous for her, and he wants to find out what this pill is based on descriptive values that she can give to him so he can look it up on the internet. The CPA employees are saying that this is unnecessary and just instilling fear in the child. But there's a logical answer to this that doesn't involve giving fear to anyone, and that answer is to simply ask the mother what the pill is and have her tell you. Maybe next time you drop off the child at her place, she can just show you the bottle of medicine. You can show it to the daughter and she'll say, yep, that's what I've been taking. And it's like, okay, now I know what this is. I can research it. It's fine. I mean, for all we know, the mother could just be giving the daughter Advil. We don't know what it is. But the fact is, if the daughter is now complaining about health problems, she says this is something that's meant to control her and make her more cooperative, whatever that's supposed to mean, and she's not saying what the pill is for whatever reason, I think that's cause for concern. This is kind of a scary situation, being the father of a child where the mother of the child is doing things that you don't necessarily understand, you don't think it's best for your daughter, and you're left without a lot of recourse action. However, when I really think about it, you kind of have to ask why these people get married in the first place. That's a very interesting question to me, because obviously, once again, I can't know the full context of this. Maybe the father's a terrible person and the mother is just a shining example of perfect parenthood. I can't tell. But it seems from the story like the mother is not a good person. That's what I get from watching the video. Like, I can't be 100% sure, but that seems to be the situation. So you ask the question, why did the mother and father get married and have the child in the first place? If your spouse or your partner or your ex-spouse, your ex-partner does anything that is terrible and you find out they're a terrible person, then any negative consequences that happen to you are kind of indirectly, in a way, not necessarily your fault, but you had it coming. It's very difficult to describe. For example, let's say that a man and a woman meet each other and they get married within 3 months. Then it turns out that the man is abusive and he beats his spouse every single day. Now the beatings, the man beating the woman, that is the man's fault. The man beat the woman, so the man is at fault for the beating of the woman. However, I'd have to say that the woman was irresponsible in getting into this type of relationship. It's not like walking out in the streets and then a random gang comes up, beats the crap out of you, like, oh, well, you shouldn't have been there, it's your fault. Obviously not. If anyone beats you up for any reason, then it's the fault of the person who beat you up. But why did you get into a relationship with this person in the first place? And I'd say the same thing if you get married to someone and have a child with them and find out this is not a good person, they're not treating the child well. My question is, why did you get married to them in the first place and have a child with them in the first place? Now, you might say, well, how can you really know about the person? How can you really know whether they're a good person or a bad person? This is why I say you should at least be in an intimate relationship with someone for, I don't know, 3 to 5 years or so before you decide to marry them. Because you really want the personal experience with them. You want the other person to get extremely comfortable around you so they stop any facade they're playing and you can see their personality for what it is. Maybe the person seems super nice, but it turns out that they're actually got a big anger problem and they like to hit things when they're angry. If you see that, it's time to do a 360 and moonwalk out of there. You don't want to be with a person who is abusive, and you don't want to be with a person who's insane and will treat your child poorly. But from my perspective as a man, where does that leave me? Because I'm the person who kind of does strongly consider having a family someday. I think that would be nice, marrying a woman and then having kids with them. But the thing is, I have to keep this in mind. What if the person that I choose to marry is actually a very abusive person towards the children? What if there's someone who doesn't treat the children right and tries to manipulate them in order to instill her worldview and her biases into them, while not giving them what they need in order to grow up into a proper, mature adult? That is a major concern of mine. So if I'm looking for someone to get into a long-term relationship with, that's something I have to be afraid of. And I really do want to get close to someone. I really do want to have that connection. But now this fear is going to be in the back of my mind because there are so many people who display this negative property. I don't know. It's just a scary thought, and that's the world, I guess. You have to be smart, you have to be mindful of everyone around you, and you have to be mindful of all the potential threats that could happen to your life. Just please, if you plan on getting married to someone that you don't know for very long, just be mindful of this. Be mindful of all the bad things that could potentially happen. Because if you do marry someone who ends up messing your kids, it's kind of your fault for having kids with them. That's my perspective. It's their fault for abusing the children, but you shouldn't have gotten into a relationship with them in the first place. So if you're going to marry someone, that's my ultimate message. Make sure that you know them. Those are my scattered thoughts on the video. Once again, I'd recommend watching the entire thing. It's very interesting to watch it and see how these people interact with each other. So I would highly recommend that. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.